Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Thea George and I'm here with Tim Bosco from Brown Brothers Harriman. We're at Cybos 2016 in Geneva and we're talking about innovation. Tim, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
How can banks measure the success of their innovation programs?
When you think about having an innovation program to begin with, it really should only do one thing. It should create value. It should be there to create value for your clients and for your own firm. If it's not generating new revenue, if it's not saving cost, if it's not protecting market share, it's sort of just an expense. So when we look at measuring the success or failure of the program, you have to almost break it into two different measuring dimensions. The first, of course, is just the program. How well is the program designed? Are you getting enough out of the team structure? Do you have capabilities that you're bringing to the firm that are adding value? And of course, you want to also measure what the output is. And are you developing new applications, new products, new services that are delivering for your clients? So you take the first piece for a second. That's a little bit more tricky. There's not as many hard metrics that you can measure. So typically what we'd like to do is, at least in that space, we like to measure sort of the lineage of a project to make sure that if we do fail, which is intended to happen on occasion, we know why, and we know how to apply that to a next product. On the other side of it, you think about how you can measure ROI for a project, and there's easy ways to do that. We all know how to do that. With innovation, it's more difficult because each project doesn't necessarily make it through all the stages. And so what we try to do at Brown Brothers is measure very discrete phases of the whole process. So how much time and energy and funding are we spending on the ideation, on the requirements gathering, the development, and then the launch activities. And so we always have a baseline to then measure against for any project, even if it doesn't make it through all the phases.
So what do you think banks can learn from startups and how can they collaborate more?
Well, I think that it's interesting because I came from an environment where I started my career at a startup company, and now I work for a 200-year-old bank. So I've seen both sides of it. There's definitely lessons that you can share going both directions. I think some of the things that I've learned maybe from my startup experience is that within the fintech world, there's a lot more focus on an outcome. And in some cases for established firms, some of those outcomes can be predetermined, or expectations can be predetermined. I think there's more flexibility in a startup environment for people to adjust and adapt to what the demand is. And a lot of the times that takes place in those iterations of the product ideas. And so I think that's something that we like to carry through. Learning from that experience and trying to add it into what we do, we think is really important.
And how do you think banks can create a culture of innovation?
So that is a really important fact because we all compete on the margin. And so a lot of the time, the most valuable innovations that we bring to light are incremental and small. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that every time that we approach a new product concept, it has to be disruptive or earth-shattering. In some cases, it's those small things that we learn from our subject matter experts that are on the ground, that are running our business day to day, that make the most impact. So what we like to do is make sure that we can recognize those individuals, give them the tools they need to bring their ideas to fruition. And the one major way we've done that in the last 18 months is really invested heavily in our rapid prototyping process. It gives our teams a lot of opportunity to bring their idea to something tangible, and to communicate that more clearly to our stakeholders.
Tim, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.